And that, of course, is Donnie Iris's Aliyah, a song to a woman named Leah, but we have some fun with a pun when we have guests, especially when we have two guests in a row who made Aliyah to Israel. And with that in mind, let me welcome Jeff Daube, who is the director of the Zionist Organization of America's Israel office in Jerusalem, and he often appears on KERI radio in L.A. Jeff, thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you for having me, Adam.
Well, first, let's talk about, actually, we're just going to talk about, we have a couple minutes, a couple of issues going on in Israel that you can maybe give us an inside perspective on. There's been some violence on the Mount of Olives in recent days.
It's not only been in recent days, Adam, it's actually been in recent years. Unfortunately, this kind of violence against mourners, visitors on the Mount of Olives, grave desecrations comes in under the media's radar screen, so it largely gets unreported. But we have had an effort underway to not only publicize this, but to rectify the situation through establishing a police station on the Mount of Olives and bringing the government into play here, and also, believe it or not, the American government.
How did it get to that point? And, I mean, couldn't you prevent it the way it's prevented in Old City Jerusalem for the most part, simply by a police presence and, letting the Arab Muslims know that there's a line that they can't cross unless there are pretty bad consequences, unless they want bad consequences?
Well, you would think, Adam, that, grave desecration, respect for mourners and visitors, that a cemetery is a mom, flag, and apple pie question. There really is no question about that. When one could not imagine anything like that happening at Arlington National Cemetery, and the Mount of Olives cemetery, containing roughly 150,000 Jews, some among our greatest leaders, prophets, prime ministers, Nobel Prize laureates, would be a safe zone, if you will. But that apparently is not the case for our good neighbors. So what we have had to do is we have had to encourage the government here, and they have responded positively to install security cameras, hook it up to a very, very sophisticated security center. We have mobile security units going around, and we've been successful in helping them understand and implementing a police station also on the Mount of Olives. So there are quite a few measures that are being taken to ensure the safety of visitors on the Mount of Olives. We have long-term plans also, but this is the situation that we have to deal with. You know, what we always say here, the Mideast is not the Midwest. So your standards in the States and in everyday America certainly do not apply to our environment here.
Tell us a little bit about the news from the last 48 hours that Egypt is shutting off the natural gas pipeline to Israel.
Well, there are many, many stories coming in about this, Adam. One of the stories was that this was politically motivated. Now, really, the gas supply from Egypt, which is guaranteed, by the way, by the Camp David Accords that was signed by Anwar Sadat and Menachem Begin and witnessed by the U.S. President Jimmy Carter at the time, guarantees that Israel should be allowed at the same market prices access to the energy supplies. After all, it gave up the Abu Rudeis oil fields in the Sinai. So technically, the Egyptians are in violation of those accords. But there are also stories coming out that this is a suspension. This isn't really a complete shutdown. The point is really moot because the Egyptians have lost control of the Sinai, and I believe that the pipeline from Egypt to Israel and Jordan has been blown up some 14 times since the February 11th revolution, Tahrir revolution. Mm-hmm. So really, for all intents and purposes, Israel will have to find that 40% of its energy supplies from another source, and we should be able to get our own energy sources, our own natural gas online within the next few years from our gas fields in the Mediterranean.
You're listening to the Chai95 Radio Hour on WWDB AM 860. I'm Adam Taxon with Bob Guzzardi co-hosting. Let me just mention once again that we thank our sponsor, Singer Financial, your source for hard money loans in the Greater Philadelphia area. Also, I have a feeling we're going to go with Jeff Daube from ZOA's Jerusalem office until the very end of the show. You'll know Jeff by when the music comes on. But let me just say a couple things. Tomorrow we're going to have on Tony Braithwaite, who is going to be starring as Henry Higgins in My Fair Lady at the Act 2 Playhouse. He's going to be with the show, as will Kim Yakubian, who is basically putting together the Armenian Genocide Walk. Tomorrow is the 97th anniversary of the big massacre in Constantinople, which really was the starting point of the genocide of up to 1.5 million Armenian Christians by the Muslim Turks. Also, I just want to mention that once more, there will be the Islamic Apartheid Conference at Temple University tonight at 6 p.m., and that will be very much protested, and people who are inclined to go will have the chance to hear, if they're not shouted out, and I don't think Temple University is going to protect them, they'll be able to hear Robert Spencer, Pamela Geller, Noni Darwish, and Simon Deng. Okay, Jeff, sorry, thanks for being patient there. Let me ask you one other question about a Bedouin that you're trying to rescue from an Egyptian jail. Tell us a little bit there.
Sure. Very, very quickly, and we may possibly have some good news coming down the line. I'm holding my breath. I'm not trying to get my hopes up too high, but there are stories out and about that he may be released fairly soon in exchange for 63 Egyptian prisoners that the Israelis are holding. But this is a young man who was unjustly incarcerated in Egypt back in 2000. He was a 19-year-old at the time, Israeli citizen, a Bedouin who crossed the border, granted without a visa, to visit his sister in El Arish. His father was very, very helpful to Israel pre-1967 in providing it with information, so it's felt that this is a revenge operation on the part of the Egyptians. He's been held there for 11 years on trumped-up charges without due process, and like I said, there are efforts underway. I can't speak about all of the efforts, but we have been trying to get the American government as well to encourage the Egyptians to free this young man because, in a sense, it is similar to the Jonathan Pollard situation. He is being held without any real trial, and the time has come for him to be released.
Yeah, Jeff, we have about 30 seconds left. Any final thoughts you have on Yom HaAtzmaut and Yom HaZikaron from Israel?
Well, just very, very quickly, because I'm so involved in the Mount of Olives situation, what I'm going to be doing on Yom HaZikaron on Wednesday is I'm going to be going up with a group of young people called Youth for Jerusalem, and they have discovered that there are 228 Israeli war veterans, mostly from the War of Independence, so that plays very nicely with our Independence Day the following day, who are buried on the Mount of Olives, who do not have family, also because they were Holocaust survivors, so they lost their families in the Holocaust. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going around from grave to grave, putting flowers and memorial candles on their graves because they don't have any family to memorialize them.
All right, Jeff Daube, thanks for coming on today. Bob Guzzardi, thank you for co-hosting. Tim Halloran, thanks for all your technical work producing the show. And thanks for our numerous guests today. And finally, tomorrow is Primary Tuesday. Don't forget to vote unless you're uninformed, in which case I don't want your vote canceling out mine.